All right, I think we've met the official time. I will call to order the strategic planning meeting for Tuesday, May 19th, 2020. Let the record show that all aldermen are present. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the previous committee meeting held Tuesday, May 5th. Could I get a second, please?
Second.
Seconded by Alderman Witt. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion's carried. No unfinished business. I have a couple items to bring up for new referrals. So the first being an ongoing drainage issues, street issues at 142 North 9th Street. I am here bringing this to the council's attention as on one hand, there's obviously limited budgets, budgetary funding for DPW. I've worked with Bob. We've kind of gone back and forth on this. My constituents that reside at 142 North 9th Street have really kind of come to wit's end. They're frustrated. They're feeling like they are not being heard. And so I'm bringing this before the council. So let me explain the matter. The property is a very low spot in front of its driveway. So this is probably the best picture. I've got a number of pictures. And ideally, according to Bob, there should be a storm sewer drain in that location. It is a low spot in the street. He's had his engineers, of course he can speak to that, look at that. They replaced their driveway, I want to say, and that the apron area, the driveway,
2013.
In 2013, and if you go over there and you take a look, it's eroding. All right, so the constant water issues they're having there. Obviously, you say, well, this is a wet picture. I think I've got where the rest of the area around there is dry. I mean, so even when it doesn't rain for a number of days, I think that's probably a pretty good one. You can see the road is dry, but it just pools, and you can see how it's affecting their apron, their sidewalk. Okay, so I'm doing my part as representing them, bringing this issue before the council. I'd like to read a couple of things to you. Again, Bob can speak to it, but I asked Bob to look into this. Bob indicated that they investigated it a number of times. It has not been repaired due to funding shortfalls. This is, yeah, okay. I was going to say, is this a shared driveway? I don't think so. I don't think so. The street is very flat and a depression is formed in front of the driveway. We can try to repair the pothole that is formed over this coming summer, but our strategy to fix these things is usually on a mill and pave schedule, since reprofiling the road will correct the low spot. To take care of this, to do it correctly, would require a storm sewer. Unfortunately, I believe the storm drain line does not go right underneath that. It would almost like have to come down the road or come across the road or something like that. Time and material cost would be roughly $15,000. As my constituent cannot be here tonight, she asked me to read something. I sent the email. I don't know if some of you have had the opportunity to read it. I'm reading this on her behalf. The drainage issue is affecting the entire street. The previous owner, Mary Howard, had the same issues dating back 20 years, and nothing was done to address this issue when she was the owner. She addressed this issue by writing the city, as I have. I bought the house in 2010 and started dealing with and dealt with Bob Fox, Dave Crandall, and even DPW has been to the house over the years. The driveway was replaced in 2013 and has eroded along with the sidewalk. Furthermore, the issue is causing water in my basement. Will in the future affect my foundation and start to erode in front of the neighbor's house as well. And you can, if you take a look, I didn't get, I guess, a picture going the other direction, but you can see where it's starting to kind of infiltrate the neighbor's yard as well. So in summary, it is her thoughts that the drainage system on North 9th Street needs to be addressed. This is an ongoing issue and is going to cost them as homeowners more money the longer it's ignored. I feel that the city should replace my apron and sidewalk as this is an expense that I've already incurred and it needs to be replaced once again. Obviously, there are a few functioning curbs along the street, and this is one of the worst ones, blah, blah. So that's her statement. I'm bringing this forward as a discussion item. I'm also asking to put forward a PL next week. You all have your own votes, but I'm doing my job to represent my constituents, asking that the council transfer $15,000 to address this issue for North 9th Street and for the committee of the whole. Paul.
What is the 50? What would that pay for? Apron and sidewalk?
Storm sewer drain.
Oh, that would be the whole thing.
Yeah. Bob, I'm sorry. I'll defer to Bob.
Just to answer your question, all storm drain, catch basin, the grate, and then a pipe for gravel. We gotta go also to the church, which is halfway up that block, maybe 200 feet, and then pavement. It's a really rough estimate, but that's kind of the number I threw on it.
Yeah, of course.
This is for Bob. Bob, is this the same type of drainage issue that I have on Main Street, those three separate areas that just have standing water constantly?
Yeah, and from my email that I sent to John, it's a really tough call because think about it this way: $15,000 to replace a low spot in the road, and for a history, we haven't had a curbing program in over 20 years, and that's really what these streets need, or depressions like that start forming. So I guess my point is to go and tackle every low spot in every road would wipe out my entire streets budget in after 20 locations. So what we do is we wait until we come through and mill and pave this road and try and reprofile it. This is like the minimum grade of a street, which is like 0.25%. So all it takes is a little bit of a depression, water starts sitting there, and it does erode. It turns into something like this after several years. I know they've been complaining since I was back in my old position in the engineering department. This road is probably, it could be 5 more years before we replace it. I guess, we met with the property owners one day, and I don't think we should be responsible for replacing their apron and their sidewalk. We're going to patch it. It's on the work order list to patch it. It's just going to push the water into their apron. So I feel like there's a bit of a shared responsibility here. So that's the whole history here, just from my perspective.
Okay, because one house that I had on Main Street looks a lot like this. His whole apron's pretty much gone.
Right.
It's a big cut. And I sympathize with John because I think these types of driveways and drainage issues are all over the city. And I agree, I think a lot of it is the curbing. The places, the 3 spots that I have covered, even when it's only dry day for a week, it still sits there. They're on the side that they don't have sidewalks, but they do have curbing. Some of it's kind of sunk down. And, as you pave, you get less and less curbing because it's building it up. So, and then last year I had a spot in front of, I think it's 802 Main Street, where it was covered. And they came back because it was a lot of money break. So they filled it in again, they patched it, and it's still covered. So I don't know if it's a drainage issue, because we do have drainage on that side. But again, it's just one more place in the land that has drainage issues. And I agree, you could use your whole budget to see places.
So I have another question too. I'm sorry. I mean, you couldn't just throw a bunch of cold patch in that whole spot there, like, I don't know, and it doesn't do anything. I don't know.
It just pops back out.
Well, and I think the point being, water still has to settle somewhere, so then it'll just settle in the low spot in
around
their apron on their property.
or around the perimeter of it. Yeah.
Fred?
I don't know if this is for Bob or the whole council to ponder, but could we make a case that this is a combined water sewer general fund issue? If we put $5,000 apiece out of each three funds contingency, would you think of that being a possibility to fund it?
I think the issue isn't necessarily the amount of money it is, I think it's where does it stop? Correct? Like if
Did
it's,
you mind that?
right.
I have three.
Right. But if you were to go, if the funding was, if we wanted to use that route for funding the problem, I would only take from the sewer. I don't see how water would have a basis for it. So.
Looking at that picture, John, would that, it looks like the driveway down the street has a little ponding issue too. Will that drainage system solve that problem also?
I don't know, that looks like it's up by the curb.
They have a little one.
That's outside of our.
Yeah, it looks like it's in their apron.
It does tend to be more in the apron, Dave. It's nowhere near the problem that this obviously is. That's probably 10 years down the road it'll look like this, but that entire area is slanted or sloped towards the properties.
Another stupid question, but blacktop curbs on that whole length of that street, whatever side of the street that is, $15,000 cover that whole block of the curbing.
Yeah, they're not a blacktop curb, and you way on top of the pavement. I guess just some more history. For a long time, we recycled our streets. And now, like, we've gotten into like a full mill base program, which is for reprofiling. You know, these problems are becoming more and more prevalent. You know, so that's our strategy. It's just going to take a long time. So with every road, 15 years probably before everything gets all in pavement. I don't think blacktop curbs maybe a temporary solution, but the other problem is, you know, not necessarily like code enforcement, but there hasn't been a lot of quality control as far as when people replace their aprons. Sometimes they take the curb right out and they create their own problems. You know, you look around people's aprons around town, they're all different construction methods. And, you know, we're trying to standardize like how these things are done so that they're corrected when contractors come in and do it right themselves. And there's a lot of issues that we're trying to slowly, you know, make better because, you know, we're dealing with 70 miles of the road. Everything kind of counts when you're dealing with a large scale like that.
Yeah, I sympathize with them, and that sucks, right? I can
On
imagine.
dry days like today,
Yeah, like
you go down there, and there's a pond.
Like you have days and days of dry weather, and you still have that puddle. Wash your car, you drive through it, kids.
Stock it with fish.
Yeah.
Bob, is there a tentative time frame to when that street would be scheduled to get a resurface?
We do a 5-year plan, and we do a rating system, so every year we rate our streets because some deteriorate faster than others. This is not a 5-year plan.
Okay.
And you're right, this is a pretty extreme situation. I think we can help them out in some way.
So if you put a storm drain in there, would it go near that tree so that it's off the apron, or would you put it in the apron?
So, John, is that a drain this way at the end? It looks like a drain sometimes. See with the water and then it's like, has,
Right to the left, right at the street.
No, it's probably like leaves or something.
it just looks like a grade or a drain.
There's no drains there.
So that's just reflection of something.
That's the reflection of the house across the street, I think,
The church.
or the church.
Yeah.
I'll show you.
The stone entrance to the church on 9th.
Are you talking about this?
No, down here.
Down here?
Keep going. There.
Down
Oh.
here?
Up, up. All right, keep going right there.
Oh, that's a roof for the house across the street.
Oh, this is a roof.
Okay.
Let me see if I.
Asbestos shingles have that look.
Would the plan be just a typical square grate style, Bob?
Yeah,
I mean, the only input I would think, well, the first thing that comes to my mind, you know, because the grade's so low, the installation of that thing needs to be so good. Otherwise, like next year, it starts sloughing away on the sides of it or something, and
You can see the angle.
you're back to a similar situation too. Or like to get it to work right, you end up with an overrun on the job and it costs 25 instead of 15.
Sure, that tree ain't.
I think one thing that we noted as well, it seems like they have kind of a really long curb cut too, don't they, Bob?
Yeah,
Is it a double driveway?
really difficult.
I think it is a double driveway, yeah.
Well, since it's been late now and it's been brought to our attention in the wintertime or in the thaw and freeze cycles, if somebody fell on that, if it's in the street like that, it looks like the one that water's in the street, would the city be liable for that?
We're liable for everything.
We are the deepest pocket.
I mean, I think
I'm
we should
confused
fix it,
on-
no doubt. I just feel like we want to make sure it's good and lasts, right? And the only other suggestion I would have, I don't have any experience using them, but I've seen, you know, companies that offer different styles of drainage or maybe something other than just your standard square grate.
Like a trench drain across the driveway.
Yeah, whether it's a strip even or something different, just to be sure it's going to work good and not cost more and be a problem.
That's a good point, Jason, because I have actually an ongoing issue about a storm sewer drain that's in someone's driveway across State Street there, and it's almost like it's starting to cave in,
Mhm.
right? From repeated driving over it. That's another issue that Bob's working on, that I've reached out to them on, but I think that's fixable. So do they, in that circumstance, is there a special type of grate, a different type of storm sewer that you would put if there's going to be cars driving over it?
No, I mean, just the precast box, man, only want to use one row of brick because that's typically the mortar will kind of get crushed and that's why it'll sink, but, we would just use anything that's DOT standard. You can't get too creative in the streets, you can use what's tested for, vehicle traffic.
Well, I wanted to bring this forward. I'm open to comments, suggestions. I will be putting forward a PL for next Tuesday, asking to transfer $15,000 out of the general fund, and possibly even I'll talk to Fred and Bill, maybe splitting that and from maybe sewer and general fund to DPW, and vote how you think is best. That's all I can ask you guys to do.
Hey, I don't know why this didn't occur to me before, but do we think that tree might have any issues, like be causing any of this issue? Like as its roots move?
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, do we know where the closest storm drain is along that curb, Bob?
I'll try that, see, maybe a little bit past that.
So it could be over 30 years, the tree that caused it to get worse in the first place, I guess.
Yeah, because
I'm sure it's a lot of clay, that's why I won't personally. And, the guy has a heavy vehicle, but there's nothing that says that you can't have a heavy vehicle on the road. That's what happens. Turn everyone else like that.
I can't see where this would erode the sidewalk. So, and I noticed in the one picture, you got tracks in the subway too. Looks like a vehicle been driving over the subway. And, so.
they've been bumping it right
If
where.
that heavy vehicle driving in and out of there, that would be
That.
yeah.
Well, there's another one which shows further up by the sidewalk, on one of your other wetter
Oh,
pictures.
over here.
Yeah. One more.
Might
Maybe
be
that one.
down low.
John, do you know if they had a contractor replace the sidewalk?
One more over down. One more.
I don't know. Oh, no. I don't know.
Well, the reason I asked is, in the past, DPW was pointed
That-
out to the contractor.
That's the one right there, John.
Where sidewalks have to be 4 inches and driveways are
Yeah, because you can see it right on the sidewalk too.
That's why I'm thinking
There's
the sidewalk.
one on the sidewalk and one to the right of it,
Driveway.
which
They didn't do it.
seems to be a little narrow for a truck though.
Maybe it's 4 inch, I can't remember.
What, sidewalk?
Is that apron paved?
Four for sidewalk, minimum of 6 for a driveway. Typically you want to go 8 if you're going to spend the money
That's
on
why
it.
I think those are grading out because they're not thick enough. I learned that one.
You know, I mean, I think, so obviously their request is, they're requesting the full kit and caboodle, right? They, not only do they want that issue fixed, they think that the city's responsible for the apron and the sidewalk and, you know, but at the end of the day, I think a middle ground is necessary, right? I don't think it's the apron and the sidewalk is still their property. And if we can somehow alleviate the problem, then, you know, I think they can focus on repairing their property. I mean, I think that's, try to look at a fair way. Otherwise, you know, it's a $50,000 repair, or you know, maybe not that much, but twice as much, right? $30,000.
I just like to see it be good enough, you know, if we spend the money, we don't hear about this one again. And I just know from some experience that on paper you can make it look perfect, but when the tolerances are this tight, and you've got a contractor going out there to do the work, or whomever, maybe it's our guys.
I would imagine it would be the city, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think we could probably do it and not have a little bit of help with it.
So what I'm asking for is to secure the funding to put into your budget, correct?
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the material cost, and a little bit of labor factored in if we need it.
Bob, can I ask one more question? That big tree there, do you think the root of that tree has grown into the drainage and that's why it's not raining?
It's gonna heat the road at some point.
Biden here?
You know, I mean, think about it over a 20-year period, it's gonna heat the road and then water starts sitting and then kind of create a little spot for sure.
And maybe blocking it?
I just have one more comment. Proceed cautiously. Okay, proceed cautiously. There's a lot of other areas in the city that have the same problem, so.
I have 3 on Main Street that are,
Proceed
you go
cautiously.
there right now, they're just like that. And one guy, the apron of his driveway, posted it. Cut it all out.
And I mean, I guess that's where I would like to see us at least think about is on, when we redo these roads, can we do something a little different than what we've done for 40 years? With either the gutter, the paving, something you do along the edge of that paving too, so we don't have to get the slopes, but can get rid of some water like this. Because I mean, probably half the city could be like this or so close to ending up like this that, you know, we get calls like this 10 times a month. We start fixing them.
Or you put this in 2 years, some other spot has a sinkhole and it takes the other part of the road.
Right.
We got it right on State Street, we did that.
And I mean, my brain just sees this one in, maybe it's 5 years, maybe it's next year, but like the grate being up. Looking at this, it looks like if that grate were up an inch, you'd have a puddle around it and a drain there that gets you down to an inch, but still, I mean, that thing's probably not crazy deep, a couple inches, and it's that big.
It's about 3-4 inches deep.
But it's because that whole road, you know, doesn't have much grade to it, and I imagine when it was built, it was dirt.
Awesome. Mull it over, John.
I don't know if I can come up with something creative to put in my 2 cents in, I will. I just don't, it seems like an outside the box thing to do.
Well, thank you guys for indulging me. Again, you know, I think a lot of times, if nothing else, our constituents want to at least be heard. And so I'm bringing this forward. If you have any other comments or suggestions, please feel free to email me. Next, out of just kind of a passion for walking around our neighborhoods. And this issue's been brought up a couple times now by different constituents asking if we were running the sidewalk program again this year. And I know as we went into the budget season, we said, you know, with COVID, so on and so forth, we really need to be conservative. But I've had now a number of requests for the sidewalk program is still going to be up and running. So I did send some questions off to Bob just to get an understanding of where we are, what we set aside last year. So last year, the council set aside $40,000.
You have a report here. Everybody's
Oh.
Everybody's got a report now. So.
Thank you. So the sidewalk capital fund.
What do we have in there for this year, Fred? What do we?
We started the year with $52,000, included a budget transfer of $17,500 last year. We started with $52,000 and we received just short of $19,000 from the program participants. So we had about $71,000 available for repairs. Unfortunately, we spent $85,000 for the RPADI and others. We ended up in the hole, underfunded by over $14,000. There is no money left in that capital project.
How does that happen?
Does that include all the corners we redid and put in the ADA?
RPADI, we're going to work for that, and we have to talk about that.
Is that part of the program you're talking about? So I thought that was separate.
I thought it was separate too.
Remember, people would come up with 50% and you pay 50%?
That's all included. We have, that includes the participant's share of the expenditure, and the revenue includes what's our fair share? So
Yeah.
it includes both the city's share that we chipped into that particular resident, and it includes their share of the expenditure.
We still have outstanding balances from the people who chipped in.
I don't know. I don't know if Lindsay would know, or I don't know.
I don't believe so. We've been tracking our program very closely, and we spent $43,000. So I guess the answer to the question at hand is $43,000 of work was done with an additional $19,000 of public money. The other funding, I can't really speak for it because I didn't prepare this, but there are people around town who receive a sidewalk complaint, and if they don't fix it within, say, a 6-month period, we go and fix it, and the contractor, Ryan Patty in this case, they fix it, it goes on taxes. That could account for the additional $40,000 or work. I don't know where that came from, but that's definitely one source.
So it could just be somebody supplying the payment to our Patty to the wrong account? Could be an issue?
Yeah, and I really don't know.
Gotcha.
I'll put the mask on for you.
Because I know that, because it's kind of like the water. There's a lot of discrepancy with people saying, well, people don't pay their water bill, but then after a year goes by, it gets billed onto their city taxes. If they don't pay that, then it goes to the county. With sidewalks, though, if our Patty fixes it, the city fronts the money, we put it on our city taxes, and the county typically doesn't reimburse us for that. So it's kind of this loophole where we're taking big losses on, well, not big, but we have to write that off.
I think we're going to have to maybe try to revisit this offline because I guess I don't. So I see where. So Fred has provided me with a list here of constituents, people who got funding back to them. So this means, right, they got a portion back if they spent the money to repair X amount of sidewalk, they received, what was the dollar value? Anybody recall off the top of your head? No, it was, huh? But it was $6 a square foot. Right. Right. At a cap of 1,000.
But, so, when
The
somebody,
18,952.90, that's the local match, right, the constituent match. So when they came and wanted to participate in the program, that's what they had to pay us to get their sidewalks done,
so,
right?
we've got this, sorry.
So received for program participants, 18,952.90.
That's the participant share.
So like when a customer or a constituent wants to do their sidewalk, they come in, that's their part that they have to pay. Correct. Okay.
And who,
And the last I checked, we spent 43,000. So that's the number we're looking for.
So, this is where I think the hiccup is. So we have like a capital project, or this program should have its own separate account. And what I think is the big misconception is that we just have a sidewalk account where we're running this program out of, and then when the city does the mandatory replacements for people that have an actual bad sidewalk and they refuse to replace it and we have to send the city contractor in to do it, we're also applying it to that same account. So that account it fronts the money to do it until it gets till the people get the bill, and if they don't pay it, then it goes on their taxes. So this account is kind of a, I don't know, bus stop for those funds, when really there should be two separate accounts, a sidewalk program account and then a actual sidewalk improvement or a sidewalk account for the city.
Well, right, because that's not the whole point of the program. And if I'm wrong, please correct me, but the whole point was that we wanted to encourage people to reach out to us and fix their own sidewalks.
and so I have a list here of checks that were cut to homeowners. Okay, you guys have that list too? All right, so I have a list here, but then there's in this list, so you've got, $400 went to so and so because they had proof that they repaired their sidewalks. But then there's a bill here, or there's a payment here of let's call it 44,000, and then a payment up here for 11,000 to our Patty. So who is that?
Our
contractor?
The contractor, we put out an annual contract for sidewalk, driveway, curbing.
They're doing
Is all the work, all $55,000 worth from that's connected to our Patty, associated to repairs from this sidewalk program? Or does it also include ADA stuff that was put in?
I'm assuming that's where
we can revisit this.
I think that's where the rub is. I think it's all sidewalk.
What you're saying? I mean, is it the catch-all for all sidewalk
any
repairs?
sidewalk and apron repairs and things like that? I think that's where it probably falls in, and it should just be two separate accounts. We should have had a capital project for.
I think it seems reasonable to assume that there would still be money in the account if it wasn't handled that way, right?
Well, when we got here too, the previous DPW director was using it to kind of offset other areas of the budget too. So it was like a contra account originally.
I meant the initial $52,000 we kind of.
Yeah, I mean, we've only given out
We
19.
intended $50,000 to go towards residents.
To me, it was
sidewalks.
how we seeded that program.
Correct.
Right? Like fleet management has a thing that's their little nest egg.
We don't have a general ledger account set up for sidewalks. You know what I mean? It's not in our charter account from the street maintenance. So everything is funneled into that capital that we set up for sidewalks.
So,
Perhaps down the road we create a general ledger account for street maintenance or sidewalk
and that
I mean,
would,
it should be a separate project. So
Right.
this is the catch-all for any work done on sidewalks all over the city.
right.
Yeah,
Right.
I don't know that.
I think the intention was is that every name on this list would be a constituent or a resident, and there wouldn't be any RPADs on there or any.
Well, well, you would still see them because the money's got to go. Well, if a constituent comes to the city and says, "Hey, I want to have my sidewalks replaced. I don't want to get my own contractor. Just send the city's guys down." We still have to pay our patty.
So why we can't check to Jim Griffin?
Well, no, you wouldn't. So you wouldn't. So those customers, you wouldn't cut a check to. We would just absorb, half up to $1,000 of the RPADI bill for their specific.
There's two ways you get your sidewalk repaired.
Either we do it or they do.
I hire,
So we kind
Joe
of.
Smith to go and do it. He gives me a bill. I bring it into the city building, and they cut me a check, right?
Yeah.
So that these people's names indicate they went outside the city to repair their sidewalks. Our patty means, but my question is, well, maybe some of them are residents, part of this program, but maybe
Some of them
not.
Some of them are landlords that
Some
don't
of them
qualify
are
for.
landlords that,
that-
as Bob said, we mandated
They fix your
your
side.
sidewalk or else we're going to come in and fix it, but
They-
they're on here, so there's
they-
really no usable metric.
Which makes sense why that.
My name on there? I had a city repair one block in front of my house. I don't know what list you're looking at, but I think I got $100 back.
But you're saying you would add our patty to it?
No, I had a city, I don't know.
Well, yeah. So it's the city.
See, yes.
So your name wouldn't be on there. Yeah, you
wouldn't be on here.
wouldn't be on there because we didn't cut a check to you. So that name is just money going out to individuals. So we that's more of an in-house. There's probably paperwork in the office.
I don't
I'm
know why
assuming.
there's a check to Wayne Concrete.
The concrete company for our patty.
I see.
So I had a thought.
So it sounds like we gotta work
We'll
on it.
have to, we can revisit this, I guess.
Yeah, so I guess what I'm hearing is you're looking for, I know we added $17,000 to the, I think we put 50,000 in the last budget, and we added some money to it. And I can't remember where
Right.
I think the 17,000 was
We-
left over from contingency, that was part of that we divvied up, put into the sidewalk program. So from what I'm hearing, I see you're looking for a separation of what just the sidewalk program for our residents would be versus what we would pay our patty for doing repairs, to try to break everything out so it's just under the sidewalk program, not our existing repairs of sidewalks and after things like that.
So we can better track
I would think that's the proper way. And if you need, I mean, for Fred's sake, for accounting's sake, if you need to set up a separate capital fund to say any money that the council sets aside for sidewalk, call it a project fund or a homeowner sidewalk program, I don't know, set up a separate capital fund. And like you said, Bill, if money gets put into that, even if our patty does the work, it should be our patty hyphen John Crawford, because he did the work at John Crawford's house or something to indicate, right? I mean,
Yeah, that would make
If
sense.
we tell people we're gonna spend 20,000 to let them get aid, we can
Yeah.
show them easily 20,000 went to homeowner.
Well, that
right, and that's where I'm happy to follow up with Fred and Bob and Bill and try to make some sense out of this. I don't know how we can have a capital fund with negative number in it.
No,
I thought we were
that's-
trying to get away from that.
I think and that makes sense why we got into it in the first place. It wasn't just hey, we need to fix the snowplow, let's pull it out of this fund. I think it is every year, there's different, the accounts receivable for the water department is sometimes people don't pay their water bill and then it goes on their taxes. Well, there's got to be some amount of negative dollars in there where that money's being held. So where we have to, or lawn care, if somebody's lawn gets out of control, the code enforcement department has a grass account or something like that we pay a contractor to mow their lawn. They don't pay the bill. It goes to their taxes. So that account inevitably has a negative balance in it at a certain point. At which point it should be being reimbursed because it's being pushed onto the tax rolls. And then if the county indemnifies us or not, at least it gets rolled out every year and they don't start generating a negative balance. But
Normally, every year, the county gives us a breakdown in March when they make us whole. They will tell us how much we got back for cutting grass or whatever, sidewalk.
Right,
council
but-
wants to consider that.
I think we should consider that. Is it possible, Fred, to get a detailed invoice from our Patty identifying what locations the work was done with?
Well, we already, we have detailed records in my office of this program because they were all investigated by the engineering team. All the square footage is
Right.
accounted for. I've got all that invoice in my office.
I think there's another.
So is it possible that we could get a copy of that?
You know,
I can ask the mayor if he would.
I don't know why we can't ask the county for a detailed.
Bill, I've tried. You don't look like you in the county.
But the bottom line is, we just want a separate account for the sidewalk.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think moving forward, though, this account is always going to be negative. I think, I don't know that much about governmental accounting, but do they have a bad debt account? Like, is there something you guys have I know that we don't take write-offs, but there's got to be a place to put it, because at the end of the year, you shouldn't have negative accounts rolling forward into each year. They should be being wiped clean, going into an expense account, and
No, that's not the way it works, Kevin. We listen to BWB, and it's in the report every year they give us on how it's, so if you look in that report, it's going to be listed. We do from, all that stuff, so I don't believe we haven't wiped out any accounts as bad debts.
okay. To me, if like, as soon as the county doesn't indemnify us for sidewalks, let's say, or lawn care, that's going to stay a negative balance, because those people, if it's not on their new county tax bill because they let it roll to the county, they're never going to pay it. And if there's no way for us to track it down, we really need to find a way to eliminate those, because it is bad debt. That's how I would look at it. I don't know if.
So for action items, because I don't want to take up an hour on this. The reason I was bringing this up was to gauge the level of interest. If we can kind of maybe, that was our first time reinstituting a sidewalk program. Maybe not setting aside a full $50,000, but would the council and the mayor, given our circumstance, be open to at least setting aside $20,000 into a sidewalk program for homeowners to, again, it's kind of a shared investment into our neighborhoods and improving the walkability of the community.
What did we allow in the budget, in the 2020-21 budget?
Nothing budgeted for sidewalk repairs, that's the problem.
What's the budget funding for it?
So that's for any sidewalk.
Street maintenance.
Right, so
This was in a separate capital fund.
This was.
Yeah.
I'm saying going forward, if you look at maintenance of streets, you have resurfacing and street materials. That's the closest thing that we have to cover the sidewalk.
Right. So
So if you want to use 20,000 out of that.
I don't want to hit the budget. I want to. I don't know if Paul recalls, but I think we transferred whatever 20,000 or 18,000 out of, wasn't it out of general fund?
General fund or contingency or
Something.
Any one of those things, we just kind of,
I don't think we're ready to split up that fund yet. That street resurfacing, we can kind of catch it all because, we can see it right up there. And one big reason why, I think we're close. I've been building that fund up over the several years that I've been here from, like, say, 250 to almost 300,000. Then I think maybe we're to the point where we, think about having a curbing program in areas where it works, or a sidewalk program, whether it's through a subsidized thing, like you're saying.
I'm not proposing to touch the budget.
Yeah.
I'm proposing to take $20,000 out of the general fund, the fund balance,
Yeah.
I'm not against that idea, as long as we do it the way we thought we
the
should.
right way.
Yeah.
Or I don't want to say the right way. I want to say
Right.
create a separate.
Right.
We should be able to tick and tie what Bob has as his engineers approved, right, to some transfers, some ledger of cash flow,
Good.
right? That's what I would expect.
And then once we're done with that 20,000, it's gone.
Yep.
Right.
And
Then
people
we're
are cut
gonna
off.
start supplementing.
Yeah.
Okay.
If the council is inclined to take 20,000 of fund balance, sounds like you're on the same page. I'll create a general ledger account called sidewalk replacement, sidewalk repair. So it'll be part of the budget next year, and the year after, and the year after.
Careful how we word it, because it's not in and of itself sidewalk replacement program. It's a customer-driven program.
Right.
Where people walk up and request this, and this isn't like the code enforcement forcing people to replace their sidewalk program.
But they are tethered together.
We
Because
don't
we,
want that.
right, but we're not allowing people, right, but the program is written, if you don't have a bad sidewalk, we're not gonna reimburse you to replace it. Right? Remember, we did that, like you had to have a violation.
I don't think anyone's gonna replace that.
Because we did have some, you had a constituent in your ward that called because she had some sidewalk blocks that were bad, and then she found out how much the city was going to charge and how much other contractors were going to charge, and the city said, well, you're already in violation of the code, so we served her a notice saying you have to replace it.
I guess that's a good question, Kevin. Did people that were forced to replace their, no, they had to apply to the program.
But if they were forced to replace them and they called the office and they said, I can't afford, $2,000, the city might return and say, well, there's a program, if you just fill it out, we can give you $1,000 back on it.
There's some cleaning up that needs that I can take offline and work with Bill and Fred and Bob. Okay, so as far as how things happened in the past, we can audit. I think maybe it wouldn't even be a bad idea to reinstitute the audit and compliance committee just to look into something like this. I know Ron served on it. His expertise would be great to help dig into some of these numbers. So we can look at maybe doing that. But as far as going forward for money for this summer for people to invest in their residents, I'm going to bring it forward. If you support it, great. If not, but I would ask to at least set aside $20,000. It should be able to at least, it keeps the process going. We're making progress. We did great last year. People noticed it. I would really love to see at least we continue the progress being made with some shared commitment, some subsidizing sidewalk replacements. So 20,000 sounds like a reasonable starting point. So I'm going to put forward something. I'll work with Paul and we can get that posted for next week. Okay. Again, comments or questions?
I'm just curious about the time frame for when do they do the inspection and paint the sidewalks that have to be replaced, Bob?
I don't know. I'm not exactly sure what you mean.
Like, there must be, every year, we must go out, and I notice they put an X on sidewalks for people that must have to be replaced, and then there's a record made. How does that get done?
We don't have a proactive program, it's complaint-based.
Oh.
We only replace if people come into our office and fill out a form. Then, mainly due to the liability reason, we patch it right away, and then we send them a letter, and then go through the process of replacing it, and they go to the contractor.
Okay.
The
So it,
program is different.
The way this program works, and I applaud the concept from last year, because I thought it was a great program, because not only does it improve the list of neighborhoods, it's a huge safety issue too that you're resolving. But the way it worked last year for me as a homeowner is they came around in, I think, June or early July. You had to apply by a certain date that you wanted the sidewalk. The engineer came around in July, said, yeah, you qualify for this replacement. Then they put the X on, but my sidewalk was not repaired in September of that year. The city contract.
So, but
you guys
that-
did a great job with improvements. Okay.
Well, I guess it's unfair of me to just put this forward. Bill, do you see any problems with administering if the council allotted $20,000 to run a program like this year? Do you feel that would impact?
There shouldn't be any problem with administering. It's just a matter of separating things out. And I don't think we were, now that I think about it, I know what your intent was, but I don't think there was clear direction on separating everything out. I think at the time, everything went into that account and we were taking care of it, so. And this is what you have, is an accounting on all that, so. I think we,
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, the last input, something that kind of dawns on me here that I think is strange is, it seems awkward that, to fund a complaint-based program like this, it's almost like somebody could have a horrible sidewalk, but if nobody complains about it, they can't get in on the funding. That seems like an odd
So they would
scenario.
complain on themselves is what happens. They would file a complaint
that-
form and fill out the program.
So what we found, Jason, last year, is, you know, that the people in the neighborhood, who no one's ever turned them in, but they've got a crappy sidewalk, and as long as they haven't been turned in, they're not gonna spend $5,000 to do it themselves. But by putting forward this program, and the most they get, homeowners were spending, you know, willing to put 4,000 in if it meant they could get 1,000 back from the city. So some of the worst, and I've seen it in my own, in Ward 5, some of the worst offenders finally were like, you know, I've been kicking that can down the road long enough. I saw you guys put this forward. You know, I took care of that deplorable sidewalk in front of my house. But you're, so like Kevin said, you essentially finally turned yourself in and said, I'm going to take care of this, and they had to go through Bob's office to get authorized and approved ahead of time. So if you had a crack in your sidewalk and it wasn't a tripping hazard, just because you know, you're a stickler and you want a perfect sidewalk, you wouldn't qualify. You had to get.
Okay, so even if somebody complained on themselves, someone comes out, Bob, and looks at it and determines like what needs replaced, or is it?
As part of this program, yeah, there was like a 3-step process. So our engineer would meet you on site and go over and say this was eligible.
Okay.
It's codified, like what a bad sidewalk is, and then we would do the work. You know, we'd take pictures during step 1, and we'd do the work. We'd come back afterwards and make sure the correct
Okay.
amount of square footage was done, reimbursement for just the bad walk.
Yep. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Maybe Fred, a suggestion is like a sidewalk reimbursement program or something where it's a reimbursement where we know it is a customer-driven initiative. Okay. All right. Thanks everyone for listening. Again, if you have any comments or questions, just shoot me an email. No approval of committee reports. Right, Tiffany? Oh.
That's one thing I wanted to talk about. If you open up the floor, I did have something I wanted to bring up too. I got a call, and I'm sure some of you at least probably did that, a constituent about the situation at Warfest. And the suggestion was made, and I think it's a good one, that maybe given that it's a multiple, it's been numerous times now that there's been some vandalism there, maybe we should think about putting a camera on that. Just wanted to put that out there.
So to piggyback off that, that same issue, I guess, is it time to look at all of our park spaces? Whether, you know, what is the potential impact? We've got a beautiful facility over there. Now, I know there are a couple cameras over there, right?
that's well cambered.
Okay. Are there other, I mean, we have assets in our community, it's 2020, is it maybe time to open up more surveillance on city properties in our park spaces?
Yeah, we have situations at franchise that
Right.
we put cameras up. We have, yeah.
We do have cameras at Friend Shop?
No,
Oh,
no.
so,
Funding's been an issue for that.
Sure.
And then also funding, and we only have so much room in the dispatch office right now.
Sure.
So you're looking at some expansion there to bring on more, video or monitors. That's because the cameras over in the park are not monitored back here. They're on site. We have to go and view them.
Really?
So there was a camera that was on the rec center that you can see the monuments, but it's far away. So we can put cameras. The thought has been to put cameras at throughout the North Union Street at each of the roundabouts.
yeah.
And and watch there. So it's a program that we can look into. Those of you who are YouTube, go on there and look at the City of Olean cameras, and you'll see that we were one of the first cities in the nation to have cameras out on their street here. And they were monitored in the police department. There was a series of, along up on the top wall of big monitors, and they were only in black and white.
That was back in the seventies, when I saw
What's
that.
that?
That was back in the seventies.
Yeah, way back, yeah. Way
And we
back.
don't do that anymore?
No, in the sixties, they were back there.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, if nothing else, I don't know what other council members' feelings are, but I don't know if what the necessity is for a live stream, but just to record things into a cloud, or for when something like this occurs, we at least have something to help the police look at and, you know, come up with suspects.
Yeah, we can.
Call ring.
It all comes down to funding. So we can do.
Is it possible you could get us some numbers? Would you be open, Paul, to that idea?
Yeah, definitely, yep.
Yeah, we could take a look at that.
We don't have to roll out the whole, but
No, but I think it's something we could build in phases over years, like get a little bit here and there whenever we can, but, you know.
Kind of like what Bob does with the parks.
Yeah.
Kind of what Bob does with the streets, is kind of rate parks, you know what I mean? Like, we put Trailhead Park in, what was it, a week later, we got vandalized, you know?
There's many places in the city that, we can, put the surveillance in. So.
And I know there's kind of, I don't know, keep this thing anymore, there's historically always been that resistance to cameras, people watching, nobody likes cameras until some stuff happens, and then it's like, well, you need cameras. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think Kevin mentioned it, but not so much expanding the police or someone needing to monitor it, but have records that are recorded. And if there's a problem, or John, be able to go back, but not like an active surveillance where somebody's going to watch all the parks, but if we have a problem, we can go back and use that to figure out who was doing things.
So, I have a question. If we have to go back and review it, is it going to be like a 24-hour thing, or a whole day? Because then we have to have somebody that's going to go back and reset them.
Take the ones in the park over here are 30 days.
Okay.
And then they.
I think Kevin is, Chief, you remember?
I think so, but it depends on the volume of data that it records.
Yeah.
So, on this subject, there's not a huge price difference between if you're going to monitor it live or if you're going to record it. If you're monitoring it live, you're probably recording it also, because you're not monitoring every monitor every minute of every day. So you have to run a server, you have to run a recorder, you have to run a camera, you got to set up the Wi-Fi connection or a wired connection to the device, then you got to power it. And so all of those things are the same when you're watching it live or you're recording. So the cost difference between the two, I wouldn't get hung up on. As the mayor mentioned, our dispatch center is loaded with cameras now. And to John's point, if it's Paul, hey, you don't have to monitor every minute, we should go back and record it later. I've been having to put more cameras up for a long time. So, not money.
Is it something you would consider bonding? I mean, have somebody get a price and then bond it?
You trying to get them all? You trying to get them all moved to the police department, or you want them all local?
Depends on how far do you want to go out? Where do you want to, do you want to monitor every intersection? Do you want to monitor every park? Do you want to take different areas of the city that we know are problem areas and monitor that? So it all depends on how far you want to do this. You want to keep it simple and just, like at the rec center, we've got cameras there now, we can add some, and possibly get more higher zoom power cameras that could zoom in them areas, and like that. So just depends on what type of program you want to go. I think maybe we need to, I don't know if we can get some, maybe from the, we get somebody to come in and actually do a study. Say, here's what you need, here's what, and then maybe do a 5 or 10-year plan out. With monitoring.
I think that's a good approach, Bill.
So I don't want to pay money for a study. I don't think we need a study down where we put cameras, right? Like,
I think our police could tell us.
yeah, like, we don't need to get overthinking this.
I mean, I don't know.
Design
I don't know if
specs.
a vendor necessarily would charge you to do that. If a vendor comes in and gives you their recommendation. Obviously, the police chief knows.
So we worked with the company that we did, Bob and I, with the project across the street. And they'll come in and look it over, they'll recommend what types of cameras, the power, the resolution. You know, they'll do that for you. But it all depends, I mean, if you're looking at just putting a camera or two over there for like the memorial, that's a small job, in the grand scheme of things. You're gonna put it down to Fusion Street, or roundabouts, or, you know, you can get as crazy as this job. We got a company that we normally do business with, they would come in and recommend all that stuff, we would probably have to hire them or pay them to do that.
I think it would just, I mean, again, my 2 cents, even if we took a park space a year, addressed war vets this year, you know, obviously we've had issues there, and then roll out some, you know, a different area every year, like you said, over 5 or 10 years, and I don't know if it's necessary. You know, it's funny, in neighborhoods, I've caught stuff on my, you know, Ring doorbell cams, right? So it's almost like you don't even need stuff. And I don't know how much the police use people's private, you know, surveillance systems, but I think our neighborhoods are filled with them today. So the park spaces seem like a liability.
No. My thought though is to jump off of Dave. If you were to try to like tackle a whole bunch of these at once, some real prime areas to start it off, and then slowly work your way through the rest of them in the next 5 years, and you ban on it or bond on it, I mean, I'm going to seem like a monster to constituents, but if you put them up on North Union and State and stuff like that, you put them at a few major intersections, we might have to check with the city attorney, but we could be generating some revenue off of traffic violations. I'm just saying you're putting them on the street. You know what I mean? You're putting them up.
But I think what Bill said, it all comes down to finance. You know, we're going into this coming year, and we haven't budget made for this year, but next year, the state's not going to be giving us much money at all.
Right.
And we're talking about bonding. There's going to be other things that we're going to have on the table. And look at the list of things that we want to do now that come up to what, several $100,000.
Right.
We're going to get money for that. So I just think Bill was right. We have to look at our finances and see what we do.
Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah.
Any other strategic comments?
The only one Paul, I sent you an email a couple times about Kingston Drive. Is it appropriate to bring it up now and just, I don't, just quick so that, you know, we can think about it. There's an issue with a paper street off of Prospect, or off of Kingston Drive. It's kind of a neighbor dispute, but the reason we fall in is because of the paper street between them. The original status was one of the homeowners groomed it, took care of it, then some things changed next door, and that person's kind of using the land and tearing it up and making it wet and unable to groom and take care of. It sounds like when Kelly was involved, we were kind of going down a road to transfer the property to the owner that took care of it, but there were some drainage issues. He's been in contact with Bob to see if the city could or would be able to do anything about that. But now I think the wind's changing a little bit, and that owner doesn't want to take ownership of the property, but would like some kind of resolution to the neighbor using it, you know, because you're going to end up with this field or wet area with just weeds growing up in it and stuff. I don't know enough about these paper streets to know, like, if nobody takes care of them, who's responsible to mow them and things? How does the city fit into that?
Call it woodland.
Bill?
Yeah, I don't know either.
I need some advice from the city attorney on this.
Yeah, because I mean, we own quite a bit of land around Gargoyle Park that also is not maintained field. It's just brush.
No, it's Gargoyle Park.
That's different.
What? No, sure. I'm just saying you got a paper street down on the edge of the city, and there's
most of the paper streets that are left in the city are usually the homeowners. They'll mow.
Mm-hmm. And that sounds like what he was doing, but now the other neighbors created a situation that, like, he's got to deal with that's kind of horrible because of drainage. It sounds like the neighbors' downspouts and or sump pump drains are now going into this paper street, creating a wet spot. the last time he contacted me, he did ask if we could at least do something. The other neighbor's operating an ATV or UTV on that property, and it's tearing it up, and he was wondering if we could at least, if the city would be able to put signs up that say like no motorized vehicles or something to that effect.
I think these are questions that get Nick involved in it. And ask
Okay.
him.
I was there with you that day, and I reached out to the chief, and I just kind of brought it up to his attention about, you know, property damage and things like that. So, I mean, obviously we got to get a neighbor calling, but
Yeah, I was up there this weekend, and it's really bad. I mean, there's multiple ruts in the middle of our paper street, and you can see the mud track heading to this kind of shed.
Mm-hmm.
And I need to reach out to Bill and Nick, because do they have a right to be on paper street? Whose responsibility is to maintain it? We prepared a letter, but, you know, I'm not ready to send it out yet. Until it's verified.
Maybe we should punt on this till the next piece of plan. You okay with that, John? You okay with that, Jay?
Yeah.
Okay, no approval of committee reports, right, Tiffany, we're good there? So I'm gonna make a motion to adjourn. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, so, I'll call to order committee of the whole Tuesday, May 19th, of the record show all committee members present. We have no unfinished business, new referrals for consideration. Item A is discussion of capital projects. So everybody has a slew of paperwork in front of them. Basically, you know, what we want to try to do is go through kind of the, and Bill, correct me if I'm wrong, or stop me if you want to handle this any differently, but I figure there's three main sheets here that we're looking at, right? There's the capital projects request, there's the general fund estimated addition to fund balance, and then there's a branch off of this, which is the vehicle acquisition options, which is obviously going to be pertinent to our discussion on the two police cars.
If I may, Paul.
Yeah.
I think first off, we should probably have Fred go over the general fund estimation for 3120, and let you know how he's come up with this. And this will give you an idea of what we're going to have potentially in addition to the fund balance. Okay, and then we can start on the projects. Bob will be speaking on the projects, and Chief Rowley will be speaking on the vehicle. We talked about going with enterprise to lease vehicles, so then Chief Rowley will be speaking on that project there. So, okay?
Okay, this afternoon, I ran a report of all of our revenue and expenditures right up to the minute. And if we were hypothetically said we're closing up for the year, or through May 31st, and we didn't take another nickel in, and we didn't pay out anything else, we will have added $391,700 to the fund. That's not going to happen, but that's where we are as of today. So what I've tried to explain to you is if we take our balance as of today, $391,770, and then we take into consideration what we are going to incur in expenses. A big part of that is payroll for 529, and then the next payroll, first 1 week is in May 31st, and the other week of it goes into June. So there's about $400-some thousand in accrued payroll and payroll expenses. Then I estimated how much we're going to get in late payables for what happens after May 31st. Bills come in, vouchers come in that we pay that really are May's business. So we have accrued expenses. So I've allowed for the remainder of the payroll that we will put on the books for the end of the year, late payables, payroll expense, and I came up with $741,000. Then we have to add accrued revenue, which is revenue that will go on our books for receipts or revenue that comes in after May 31st that we earned in the current budget year. That includes sales tax, and what I did is I took what we received last June, and I took 65% of it. So that includes 65% of last June's revenue, utilities tax, franchise fees, arterial highway revenue, mortgage tax revenue. A big one is our federal oaths revenue, that's about $320,000. So I'm estimating that we're going to get in $911,000 in revenue after May 31st. So if you take our beginning balance of $391,700, lowered by $741,000 in anticipated expenses, add our accrued revenue, I'm saying our estimated addition to surplus would be $561,800. That doesn't surprise me in that I had said to Bill throughout the last 3 or 4 months that we're really going to have a good year. COVID happened and kind of will affect our numbers. But we've also instituted a lot of cost-saving measures. Our payroll is down. We're reducing costs. All the department heads are doing a good job. We met a month ago and we told them we're going to try to save $305,000 in expenses. We're on track to do that. So we've done a lot of good things to cut our losses or expenditures. So I took, again, this is an estimate of $561,800 in addition to our surplus. I added, last year we ended up with a fund balance of $2,719,000 in fund balance. We wanted to be at 15%. We actually came in 16 point whatever. And what I'm suggesting is, if the council wanted to take into consideration that we have $99,000 in excess surplus from last year and added it to our availability, that would bring up the availability to $661,160. We have $159,440 left in contingency. So I'm saying when we talk about capital projects, there's a potential $820,000 available to us. I know the thoughts are, well, we're not going to spend $820,000. We have to see what's going to happen throughout the course of the year. I think when we get into these projects, maybe you pick 1 or 2, take it out of contingency, and then we meet in 30 days to see how much the world has changed, and then maybe take another project or 2. This is just my 2 cents. But I'm suggesting that we take last year's fund balance in addition to what I think we're going to add this year. Again, there's $820,000 in availability. I'm not saying let's spend it all at once, but that's our source of revenue to
Just
take a look at for capital projects.
Just keep in mind, these are unaudited numbers, so, it's all,
How much of a reliance do we have any, the money coming in sales tax revenue this month?
It came in about $120,000 less than last.
And isn't there one more payment?
No.
That's it?
No, we estimated 35% at the meeting. It came in at 37%, so we were pretty close. That's why I reduced the June revenue by 35% over under what we got last year. So I took that into consideration. I know what our payroll was that we distributed last week. I don't think it'll change, so I took that payroll plus half of that payroll, so I think I tried to account for everything. And I used historical numbers for what we got in accrued revenue last year, franchise fee, utility tax, sales tax, mortgage.
What risks? What are potential risks that we're not considering?
Well,
What
if,
isn't,
you know, there's a lot of risk right now
I mean,
because
the uncertainty with COVID.
uncertainty of what we're gonna get from the state.
Okay.
Okay, and that's gonna be down the line, because we've already got our Ames payment, our big payment, $2 million. We have another one coming up in October,
yes.
okay? So,
And that could change, Bill?
well, that's only gonna be,
That's $300,000. The big payment is in late March. That's almost $2 million.
That could change too.
That's the
No.
big one.
No, that is not
we-
changing.
We received that,
But next March.
yes, so
That's
that's,
possible that could change.
yes. And here's what's going on with if you've been following the state at all right now, the governor's budget people have submitted, I believe it's last I heard was a 13% decrease in Ames funds. And now the legislature had 10 days to either come up with their own plan or this goes into effect. So we may see, I believe it's 13% right now, but like I said, we were fortunate. We got our Ames payment already. But where that could affect us is possibly our CHIPS funds, and we don't know about the arterial maintenance either. We don't know to what extent the governor is going to take the end. And the thing there is, this can be an ongoing, because remember, the legislature gave the governor complete control over the budget. So this could go, I think he's been every quarter, or as if the state loses, continues to not get the revenue that they projected, then he can make cuts to the rent. We're not sure yet if this is going to be on our downtown revitalization money or not. They haven't said anything on that yet. So that's what potentially we're looking at that. So.
Okay. So I really like the idea. I think the prudent thing would be is to pick a couple of these funds with contingency, with this year's current contingency, and then sit down and just wait with all these in mind. And I think if we're all of the like mind that we've got to do this stuff and we shouldn't just let it sit in a general fund somewhere and not do anything.
Mm-hmm.
But it's timing, right? Like
It's, I 100%. I actually agree with Fred.
If I could just, I want to just go over some things. I think Bob wants to go over some things too. But putting 50,000 into reevaluation, we can put that on hold. Okay. We need to repair the municipal building out here. We need to do something with the HVAC system here in the building. That's a $90,000 one. I want the chief to talk on the leasing, but I think that's the pertinent way to go now, the leasing of police cars. Street restriping, that can go on hold. Boiler at the fire station, that can go on hold for a little while longer, okay? Concrete work and building repairs. Part of that is, that's at the fire stations. But I think the big concern there is we have to stabilize the, around the top out?
Parapet wall.
The parapet. And I think we got a bid of $16,000. Now, we just got a check here back a couple of weeks ago, and it was a stimulus check from the federal government for $18,000. So I would like to use that money, because we didn't expect it. I think I'd like to use that money to stabilize the parapets over there. Get that work done before that falls off and we have an accident there.
Is that, so it would be 53,000 minus 18, so whatever that is?
Yeah, that 18 would come out of that. And the radio tower at this point in time would be nice, but that can wait. And I'll let Bob talk on if you'd like, I'll let Bob talk on some of these projects.
I guess, the other one we've talked about this bill that is really needed is the Times Square entrance. And that opens on the 29th, 10 days from now. So it's possible we could wait over the bids, but, that one, it is a big ticket, estimated to be up to $125,000. I think that's one we gotta do this summer. And I think the firehouse, if you approve that funding, we can get it scheduled right away. I've already got 3 prices. It is only a stabilization. They're gonna pull all the brick out, they're gonna set it on the roof, they're gonna put up a winter guard, and then we have some time to act on it. I guess, for me, in this list, those are really the ones, the building maintenance ones, where there's a long-term impact, but there's also a safety issue there. For those of you who don't know that much about the Times Square entrance, there's a hole in the sidewalk that drops down to a breezeway that, it's starting to deteriorate very badly. The potential to shut down that entrance if it doesn't get corrected is there. Been that was for another winter.
Yeah, I'd like to see it done just so we can stop talking about it.
The steel ramp.
No offense. I said I'd like to get it done just so we can stop talking about it.
We've got to get something done with the HVAC system too here.
Yeah, I did talk to Chief Richardson. Oh, the control system here, it came in more than I thought, but it's state bid pricing on the control company that's highly recommended here. UNS Controls gave us a price, it's $90,000, 81,000 of that would likely be paid out of the general fund. Sewer and water could share in the cost. It's kind of a complicated contract because we're going to put in some metering. We're going to put in a device on our meters to get some data analytics out of our electric meters. So this is the way that a lot of grants are going for future cost savings on our electric usage. That's the price breakdown: 81,000 general fund, 5,000 sewer fund, 3,000 water fund. Right now, it's run by a computer that was built by NASA in 2007, and because of the data breach, we can't really turn that program on. We can't really use that program, and it got so hot in the building, I just turned the boilers off today, so we're kind of just, we're on fumes as far as our HVAC system goes here, but mainly from a control standpoint. Last year, so we have 14 zones in this building, and they're controlled by these small, control panels, if you will. They're hard to get because they're out of date by 12 years. We had to replace one. We got it on eBay. The Mazda did. It cost $6,000. It's just kind of a tricky time bomb.
What was the franchise parking lot back in Wakefield?
That was the property to be acquired.
Yeah.
The Main Street project can probably wait a while. I'm hoping we can get that project done in the spring before PSAP comes through, because that intersection at front of the hospital, where people present vehicles, where we're going to put an RFP at. Of course, it can be deferred from the decision today, but to me, that's the value of the project. That it really needs to get done. Taking that 3 lanes, 2 lanes, putting parking along the hospital.
When we say it can wait, we're talking about like wait a month or 2 months, and then possibly fund this.
Yeah.
Right. Not like wait till next year or 2024.
As we see what direction everything's
Yeah.
going.
But I mean, self-serving, right? I guess it's my ward, my constituents involved. The franchise parking lot thing, I think, would be a fantastic idea, and we would upgrade to that area. So I can't just say I
We like to do a lot of that in the house too.
Yeah, and right.
Yeah, we were talking about some gravel and cleaning it up.
Are you talking about where the houses were torn down?
Yeah, the new entrance to the park.
And that would be great, but like maybe waiting 6 months or before the end of the season, just because, I mean, we don't know if the parks are gonna be allowed to be open.
Even open.
Yeah,
Right,
so.
it'd be stupid to go and do something like that, but,
I agree. You're right.
Is this,
Otherwise, it's sitting there.
is this
and
50,000?
That's all it is doing. I mean, it's got grass on it now, that's fine. So.
Is this 50,000 just to put gravel, or is this to pave it and actually make it a full parking lot?
The biggest cost is in replacing the sidewalk and the apron. A lot of our demo contracts didn't have a catch-all for driving these snow extractors or excavators with a metal track over the sidewalks. I think code is now putting that provision in there. If they go on the sidewalk, they have to replace it. So we have to basically replace the whole stretch of sidewalk across the whole property and then put in a driveway apron and some curving. That's the biggest cost.
But there's also
Like a
black,
couple feet down.
Gotcha, I thought, yeah.
there's blacktop and there was a sign, like, like the Lincoln Park sign.
Sure. I thought we were pushing the project off in sense of we were going to prep it as a parking lot and then put like some gravel or crushed limestone, something to create a base, so that in 2 or 3 years, once we have a nice solid base to put asphalt on there, that we wouldn't have a heaving. You know what I mean? Like.
My only concern, and I don't know anything about, that kind of engineering, but, if we did do that and say we ran into issues where we couldn't fund it for a few years, that could turn into a mess too, right? Like maintaining gravel,
Sure.
shit growing out through it.
Sure, but yeah, we also had a house torn down, so there's a basement missing. You know what I mean? And then compaction studies and stuff like that might, just it's new soil.
Yeah, like I said, I don't know.
But Paul, if we're ultimately going to put a parking lot in there, don't we have to have a drainage system under it to go?
Yeah.
Because I know that's what we tell them. So that's
Did-
a cost.
Yeah.
Is that in the specs, Bob?
I didn't account for drainage.
Okay.
I expected it to be a milling driveway or a parking lot. I guess I'm personally not in favor of putting more asphalt parking lots. It's not in these instances where you've got houses right there. It's hot. It's also, bad for our runoff and our stormwater considerations.
But we wouldn't put a drainage in.
Sorry.
We wouldn't put any drainage in.
What's the difference between millings and
It's just gravel, gravel.
but it's kind of sticky, right? It's smoother.
It'll pack. It'll pack down. It's kind of like your crushed limestone. Once you start driving over it, it'll start packing down, and it
Right.
kind of, when the rainwater mixes in with it, the lime that's in it just kind of crushes down. It becomes like concrete. The crushed limestone it just kind of compacts, where the asphalt shavings will kind of just compact the same way, and it'll seem like it's an asphalt.
I guess that's what I even picture, right? But
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, is the city going to have that plowed during the winter?
Gonna have a what?
Plowed during the winter? Snow? I mean, the parking lot. Are we going to have lights? I'm just thinking of,
No.
when I lived there, what was
Probably,
there?
Bob's sitting there like lights, drainage, making a list. Things that weren't in the specs. Yeah.
So anyway, it's all food for thought, and maybe we take it in a more baby steps type of.
Fred has something he wants to say.
Oh.
Well, in prior conversations, if Tim were here, he would tell you that boiler project is, I won't say an emergency, but I think that's pretty critical to Tim. So I think he would want you to consider that as one of the top 3 or 4.
Yeah, but it's also summertime now, right? So
That's what I think on my intent was that maybe we can wait a month and see what direction we're going in.
When we talked, correct me if I'm wrong, when we talked about this during the budget maybe 2 months ago or whatever, I thought we picked 3 items, correct me if I'm wrong. I think we picked that we were going to do the $125,000 with Pearson Municipal Building. I think we said we were going to do the boiler for the fire station. And I thought we said we were going to do the concrete work for $53,000. And $223,000 sticks out in mind. What does that total? I thought those were the 3 projects that we said we were going to go forward with. at that point. So, are we changing our minds?
No, I think that, you're right.
We're reprioritizing. I mean,
I think the building and the HVAC just kind of fell apart. That's
Yeah.
what that's me, so I think
So are you saying you would prefer the HVAC instead of the boiler for
Well, no,
immediate, just immediate, so you can get moving on it?
Right, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Well, we don't even have enough to fund those two things then. Because that's 200.
and that's.
For those three things, it's $268,000.
So what would we do then? How does it, like, go do the whole contingency and then?
You'd have to take $91,000 out of the general fund.
Which we have 99.
You could consider using that 15% overage that I talked about.
Right. So we've got 18,000 in stimulus, 159,000 existing in contingency, and then 91,000 out of the general fund to fund those three projects.
and the thought was that you wouldn't have to make the concrete work building repairs on the fire station for the parapet wall because you would have the 18,000 for. No, I know you have the 18,000 for the stimulus check. Where you concluded the 16,000 for the repair.
What is
It was the 16,000 to repair it temporarily, the concrete work.
Oh,
And so he was gonna. We'd have.
53?
What's that, John?
We don't need the full 53,000 for building
No,
concrete
not
repairs?
at this time.
Oh.
You
I
need
can't
16.
remember what was in the rest of that.
That's the HVAC and then the aprons in front of the firehouse.
Yeah.
But it's like 45 for the boiler and then another $8,000 for the sidewalk.
Then that's not. So
Yeah,
we
see,
don't need 53,000.
You just need about 16.
35,000, right?
Right, because you're gonna subtract.
Well, I think the immediate need is to get that stabilized.
Okay.
The parapets stabilized before, God forbid, the depth.
So that's,
Question for Fred. We talked too long about payroll
16.
taxes.
So you have 2,000 left over from your stimulus.
Just the 1.45% that we have to,
The employee.
yeah.
So you haven't calculated the employer portion.
I can set up a reserve.
You did set the money aside?
Yes.
Okay.
Done that for the last two payrolls.
Okay, so we have that money?
Yes.
Okay.
It's
That's
in
all I
the,
want to make sure.
it's in the sidewalk fund. It's just-
We're going to bury it in cement. We're all salary now.
So, Bill, correct me if I'm wrong, for the concrete work, we said it was gonna be 16,000.
That's the bid that we have right now.
Yeah, that's the masonry project. I don't have that in front of me, but yeah, 16.5 for the firehouse one.
So,
All the other works for central fire.
Yeah.
so yeah, the stimulus check is almost a wash. You're gonna get like 1.5 thousand out of it.
Okay, so just, we all agree that we should pay for the 125,000 for the stupid entrance. With contingency to get it
That-
over, right?
that's
That's
a-
the one thing we all definitely agree on,
Yep,
Yep.
like, right now.
yep.
Is it done?
No, but I'm just saying, if we walk away from this with nothing else.
Why don't we all do it tonight?
Huh?
Why don't we all go out there and work on it tonight?
I think that's a hell of an idea. Throw all the crap back in here.
We'll have the, when the bid due back up?
Friday the 29th.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't mean to do this, just want to make sure we're like keeping our eyes on, like,
Yep.
you know, where we're going.
The HVAC control, the difference between that is it's not wintertime, but HVAC, the cooling aspect of that we have a boiler. We also have an AC system too, correct, Bob?
I don't know.
Because I mean, this is clearly forced air, which is
Oh, here, yeah.
so. But this does not. Is this attached to that same system?
Yeah, it's a hot deck, cold deck. system.
Okay.
It's about as big, not big, this room is huge.
Right. Okay. Is
We
that
have a boiler, two boilers that heat the hot water system.
okay?
What do you call them? Radiator.
Do we have AC that runs through the rest of the building?
That heats almost the entire building.
No. The heat, the boilers heat the building, but the hot deck, cold deck, that at least cools the entire building as well, or just this section?
Yeah, it does. It cools
Okay.
the water off.
And is that affected by this, or is it just the two boilers in the heating system that are affected by the HVAC control?
No, the whole system.
The whole system is controlled by that. Okay. So yeah, so you're not gonna have AC going into summertime then, because it just wants to keep making it 1,000 degrees. Just to clarify that difference between trying to heat the fire station and heat and cool the city building.
So HVAC and concrete work, building repairs.
Yep.
Those are the three things we're gonna do.
Is that coming to 233, Paul, is that what you're?
Yeah, 233, 231.
16.
So you could fund that out of contingency and that 15% out of fund balance, 99.
And just to be clear, so that we're all on the same page, the 99,360 is funding that is excess funding above and beyond the 15%.
Correct.
That we're supposed to have in general fund.
That's where we ended up last year.
Yeah. Yep, I did, that's, works for me. And then obviously the plan would be next month, you know, or whenever Bob, Mayor,
It comes to 231. We only want 16,000 for the concrete instead of that 35 minus the 18.
It might be, I think Bob said it's 16.5 or something.
16, yeah, 16 and a half.
But
use the job.
No, he said, just to do the concrete work, it's 16.5.
I'm just saying, we got a check for $18,000 stimulus money. I'm saying we just take out of that what we need to fix the parapets.
Yeah,
So then
you want to take 35,000 on that 53,000, it would be your whole project, right?
For which,
For concrete work, building repairs, 53,000 minus 18,000 that you got in that stimulus check, so it'd be 35,000.
well, that was for, to do the, Bob, was that to do the approaches at the firehouse?
Yeah, again, I'm not, do you have, let's see what you're looking at. Is there a separate line item for 16,500?
No.
53,000 contract work, building repairs. That's what we talked about out during the budget talks, was the approaches.
I think there's more, the boiler got split out from the concrete work building repair. That number is way too high.
The 53 is way too high?
Yeah. I think 53 is actual 45,000 in the boiler plus $8,000 for concrete work.
Oh.
And then there's 16,005 at firehouse one for the chaser repair. So all the firehouse work is actually 69,500. But you could take out 40. But then you could cross out the 45,000 for the boiler.
Dizzying, but makes sense.
So the
It's
total.
kind of unfair without Tim being here. I mean, it's unfair to say exactly what we're doing with the fire hall.
So Bill, is it easier to just say, take that stimulus check and do what you need to do to fix that?
I think that's
Some
easy
concrete work?
to do the, parapet, to repair that, yeah.
All right.
There may be a couple $100 left out of it, but it's 16 something, and then there's gonna be,
Take it out of Fred's budget or something.
yeah.
So then, all we need to focus on out of our contingency in general fund then are the two building, what do you call it, the entrance and the HVAC?
Yeah.
Okay. Just trying to simplify, I guess. Yeah, that works.
Do you need verbal approval or a resolution from us to use that
We'll do a
stimulus check?
resolution for next week, if that's what
So the total is 215.
55, 560 comes from the general fund balance.
So 215.
And,
The 215,000.
and some of that is coming from the water sewer?
No.
For the HVAC control, did you say, Bob, that they were gonna be using a portion of that from?
I also propose that we add, so this is kind of our working list, right, that we're getting over and over again. If we're gonna be going back and revisiting this at some point, I think we should also add the sidewalk, program downtown.
Yep.
Just to keep our eye on that.
So would it be fair to say then, well, I don't know, I guess, I don't want to put the cart before the horse. I want to give the opportunity for the, unless it's a consensus that everyone supports taking 20,000 and putting it into a sidewalk program, then we would just build that into with the 215. Is that what you're saying, Paul?
I'm not necessarily right now, but I just want to make sure that when we go, when we get to a point where we're comfortable exploring these other options, that we consider that as well.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. You ready for the chief to talk about the police cars?
So, I think the first thing I want to point out is that just as this program is not just about the police guys. The fleet committee has met with enterprise leasing for at least 3 times now, over the course of the last 3 years. And they've given us this presentation multiple times. And you would think leasing vehicles would be easy. Well, it's a little more complicated than that. So in front of you, I've provided you with a document that you can take with you and look at it. That's something that I put together about 2 years ago after we had one of these meetings. And I'll try to be brief. I know we've been here a while. This program, like I said, it's not just for police cars. It could be DPW pickup trucks. It could be the fire department, some of their vehicles, everything except the really, really large vehicles, which they don't do. So it's not, this isn't just about the police department. Basically what we do, we are able to buy vehicles at a very good rate because we're a government agency. So we're going to buy, let's say, a car at $20,000, and we would go buy at $30,000. If we enter into this agreement with Enterprise, they then get the benefit of buying it at that rate. They buy the car cheaply, lease it to us, and then they come in after a period of time, they keep track of the mileage and so forth, and then they come and take the car back and they sell it. They take a portion for their fees for their work, and whatever's left in the remainder of the lease, so they make the full lease money, and then we get the profit of the sale of that vehicle, and then we apply that to the next lease. And that's fundamentally why they're in the business of doing this with government agencies like ourselves, because we have such buying power that they're able to make money, and we see a benefit of that as well. So, and depending on which vehicles you get, which departments you do it for, it varies. Some of the things you need to be aware of, so you're going to see a better return on your vehicle when you turn it over, because they're going to turn it over a lot faster than we normally do. Also, your costs of maintenance are going to go down, because you're almost certainly going to sell all your vehicles before they're out of warranty. So all you're going to do is put the tires on, changing oil filters, and windshield wipers. Other than damage that's caused through use or whatever. But that's the benefit of that. So in the past, we have called around. I know Fred was directed to be called other agencies. The Sheriff's Department does this. I've talked to Tim Whitcomb. They're very happy with this program. And like I said, I can try to answer whatever questions you might have for that breakdown that I gave you. But it's something that's becoming more and more popular. More places are doing it. And it's something that I recommend that we get involved in.
Hey, Chief, quick question. How many patrol cars do we have currently?
We have 7 marked cars, and we have 3 unmarked cars.
And is that 10 is what you feel is the right amount?
Yeah, and I can go into that a little bit. I mean, so we've had 10 cars as long as I can remember. That number, it used to be 11, it used to be, actually when I came in, it was 11. We cut it down to 10. With 7 marked cars, it worked very well for us. Each of the investigators upstairs share 1 car, and the juvenile officer has a car. And then I have a car which is also used for training purposes, sometimes the SWAT team uses it, kind of a catch-all, you know, and that's worked well for us. And it just, through the test of time, that's been necessary. At any given time, if a car goes down, or if we pile one up, or total one, or runs in the shop, you can't run with just the bare minimum you need every day, because it takes you 6 months to get another one. And so that's worked out.
Do those 3 cars, the unmarked cars, do they rack up miles as quick as the patrol cars do?
Well, typically what happens is the patrol cars come out of patrol, and we reuse them in other departments. If normally they would go to the investigators will use them, that might go to Parks and Rec, or, I mean, by the time we're done with one, it has virtually almost no value left. And that's what Enterprise is saying, that we're, in a way, we're wasting the value of that. We need to turn them over quicker and get our money out of them before they're, you know, while they're still worth more money. If you take, you know, like a pickup truck that the fire department has, you're not going to put a lot of miles on it, you're going to take good care of it, and they're going to turn it over quick, and you're going to get more money to put back into the next round for us.
Did you follow up with see if they came back on the insurance?
I think the mayor did.
I called, talked to Jack Searles, and he was not got back to me.
So this is kind of a commitment deal, that's why we haven't like leaked out right away. You know, we're, like I said, we sat through at least 2 or 3 presentations. Linda, I think you were there at least for a couple of them. Nate was part of that as well at the time, and maybe somebody else here. It's somewhat of a commitment. I mean, once you get into this, it's a little harder to get out of it, you know, because you're into the lease. But, and like I said, I provided you what I think is fairly accurate based upon the numbers that they had given me. I think it was 2 years ago when I made that document. But it kind of breaks it down for exactly how it works. For the police cars, it's a little bit more complicated because of the cost of the upfitting. And you'll see in there that I put the difference between having an Enterprise do the upfitting and us. I would recommend that we still do our own upfitting. I don't want to pay interest to Enterprise for them doing something other than renting us the car. There's not a financial benefit in that to us. But you know, for pickup trucks and other stuff around the city that don't require that kind of outfitting, it's easier to see where your return on investment on entering this program would be beneficial to the city. As I said, not only the sheriff's department locally, but around it. Fred, I'm not sure how many places you called. We didn't hear any bad news from anybody we spoke to.
I think locally, state non-managers on board with them. I did call 2 references, they spoke highly of them, so I have not heard anything negative.
What thing is, I don't know, I've never been a big fan of DC. I feel that because we are a municipality, we can get things at a lot cheaper bid, as you said. If I went out to go to the public here to buy something. And over the years, after you're done with it, we turn it down to other departments and let them use it, parks or whatever. We have our fleet mechanics that can do that with oil changes. They're under warranty for 3 or 4 years. For some reason, I was never a fan of leasing. I think we should buy it because we get it at state bid. And that's ours. We do it as a lease. What happens when you put 100,000 miles on it for 3 years driving around the city on a patrol car?
We get rid of it because the lease that's not a safe car to drive anymore. They get a nice new car chase or something.
Yeah, but how many miles are they giving us a year on here?
Per year? Yeah. Oh, that's hard to say. It's typically the brand new cars get the most mileage, right? So right now I've got two cars that I think are 3.5 years old that are 100,000 miles. And if we're not buying cars this year, it's basically going to be a year and a half before I get those cars that we won't be driving these cars.
And also, I don't think these leases are exactly the same as a commercial lease for private right? The annual mileage like on a lease, right? You lease a car, you get 12,000 miles a year. That's not really how these things work, right?
Yeah.
Not for this. No, what they do, the way they explain it to us, I mean, this enterprise leasing thing is a huge part of the Enterprise Corporation. And they monitor what's being sold around the country. And so if they know that you have a certain type of vehicle, that right now is the optimum time to sell that, and they have access to your mileage, and they're going to know, okay, now's the time to sell it. So they're going to contact us and say, we're going to take that vehicle and get a new one. And then when they sell that, they apply our portion of that back to the cost of the new one, which reduces your payment.
Kind of like we're
You say
outsourcing.
that right, we don't.
Yeah.
We're outsourcing fleet management to a certain degree.
Yes, yeah, they're gonna provide us all of our vehicles, all we're gonna need to do is the basic maintenance on them, and we just pay them per month per vehicle.
Yeah.
And they're gonna look at when to sell it, how much they can get for it, they have the revenues and the ability to take that vehicle, if it's not selling for top dollar here, they can take it to Indiana and sell it, you know, to get the most money out. They want every dollar on that vehicle they can get, but we also get our piece back.
Did, Sheriff, did he say anything about any of the downfalls or anything negative?
He had nothing negative to say about it at all. As a matter of fact, when the county switched to this, deputies used to have to share cars. They are now giving the car to everyone. They all have their own cars. So I don't know if that reflects on what monies that freed up or whatever. The sheriff himself doesn't take care of the bills like that, obviously. He has people to do that for him, but he had nothing but positives to say about it. Very happy with it. Oh yeah. And well, they also put many more miles on it than we do because they drive on, so they get rid of it much quicker.
How hard is it to get out of this program? Say we try this, and we go through a couple cycles, and you're like,
Or you'd have to complete your lease on the vehicles that you're currently leasing,
Yeah.
or buy out of the lease, just like you would.
Just like, so
Just like you would if you want to lease it over.
so that's all basically the same.
And then start buying the vehicles that you will need next time, cash.
The way those leases work, is it similar, like I know we've done leases,
It's not like a rent to own, like a piece of heavy equipment.
Right,
No,
that's, okay, it's not like that. So
exactly.
it's not like at the end of year 3 or 4 or whatever, the car.
Well, it's not unlike, to Dave's point, it's not unlike a regular lease, with the
Okay.
exception of that when you turn your regular lease in, you don't get anything.
Yeah.
When you turn this car back in, they're gonna sell it, and we're getting part of that money back to apply to the next lease, which will then reduce the payment on the next one.
They're saying
That's their sales.
we're building equity in the
Yes.
And they're getting equity right up front because they're buying it at a rate.
Right.
Well, they're still waiting at the end to be, because that car still has to be fully paid off. So if it's not, if we haven't paid the car off by making the payments from there, because they're laying out the initial capital. So if that car's $30,000 and we've been renting it, and we haven't paid 30 yet, and we want to pay 25, and he sells it for 35, they take their 5 plus $400 for service fees, and we get the remainder, $4,600, applied to the next lease of the car that replaces it.
And they're not gonna pull a car like you said, like, oh, it's now the time to sell it.
They have a right, I don't know all the fine details of it, but they're basically gonna notify us when it's time to move that car along.
But they're not gonna do it unless it's advantageous to all of us and not just.
Yeah, I'm sure that if you said, no, I wanna keep the car or whatever, that you could probably do that. I know, they said, I don't know all the fine details. This is a very complicated thing. Like I said, we've had at least 3 meetings. And after the first one, I didn't know, I just heard. It took a couple of meetings to really kind of digest, you know, what the sales pitch was. And I didn't initially understand where the bottom line was until later on after sitting through the presentation a couple of times.
Now, let me ask you this, if you didn't need, like, if you were trying to, like, convince us it's a good thing, it was just your decision. You know what I mean?
Well, I think based on, you know, like I said, that what I worked up for you, should answer most of your questions. And that's a rough, I'm no mathematician, I'm no auditor. That's just what I got from the meeting, and I broke it out and give you the options there. But I think based on my research for what I did, it's good for the city. But as you pointed out, there are, you know, issues. What if the city all of a sudden has 30 vehicles, and today we decide not to do it anymore? Well, no one that we talked to could think of any reason why you would want to do that. But if you wanted to, you could. But you're going to have to finish those leases and then start buying all those vehicles. So you're going to have the capital to do that.
Yeah.
You just wanted to start on a very small scale too, as well.
Well, that's, you know, I talked to the mayor and said, if you're leery of doing it, you just put your toes in the water, lease some for a while, see if you like it. If you don't, don't do it anymore. You don't have to go whole hog and do 30 vehicles. You know, you can just do a few, and you all certainly know people around you can call, whether the Bombers or the Sheriff's Department, and check yourself and see what you think. And like I said, I just want to give you the document tonight, and take that and look at it. Well, if you have any questions, I'll try to answer it.
Really, it's about you, right? Like, we're just approving the money for it, like, I like.
Well, like I said, it's
It's
not,
alternative,
we're not
right?
talking just police cars, we get into this,
Yeah.
we recommend that you do it with whatever vehicles that you need, that you can buy. You know, because we're always, like in the 6 years I've been chief, I put in for police cars every year. It always gets taken out of the budget, and we hope that we can pay for it on contingency. You know, this would prevent that. You'd always be buying those cars, you'd recycle them, always.
It would have to be built into your budget too.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. So I guess what I'm trying to just wrap my head around without extending it to the entire fleet. So eventually, if we were to go this direction with the police cars, at some point in time, probably phase it in two cars every year, phasing in, that would potentially mean at some point in time there would be 10 cars leased. Right? 10 of your cars would be leased through this program. You have 10 cars, there would be 10 cars leased. What is the annual cost? Just like if I have to build something into my budget, what is the annual cost? Right, I see that. So it says here, year one is 13,000, lease of 2 patrol cars, right? Through Enterprise.
So he's assuming you're releasing another 2 the next year.
So is that
number doubles? It doubles again. It doubles again. The reason this is somewhat difficult is because you're never going to know what your revenue stream is going to constantly be from the sale of cars.
right?
Nor can you put a dollar figure on here's how much we're saving by not having to have these cars worked on by the city garage.
Agreed.
Those two numbers are,
I'm just trying to say what's the worst case
Doesn't
scenario
double.
if you have 10 vehicles that
Doubles
you
the
lease.
first year.
right, well, you can just
And then it just adds 13,000.
Right. So
But each one of those,
It adds 2
on
cars
that
every
sheet,
year.
You'll see 13,000. That's not
Doubles
taking into
the first year.
consideration the third year. That 13,000 will be 13 because now you have the revenue from the cars you just sold.
Right.
So that number will be reduced by whatever that number is.
So when you, and just help me understand this, so where it says 13,000 for year one, and then year two goes to 26,000 for year two, is that because we're adding 2 more cars?
2 more cars out of the lease.
The lease price doesn't increase in year two for those same vehicles.
Right,
If
you're
you're
adding
adding 2
2
more.
more unless the cost of buying them goes up.
Okay.
That's based on the assumption
Okay.
that you're buying with the same price.
It's not like an escalating payment thing.
Yeah, that's what I was.
Yeah.
No.
It's not escalated.
Lease 2 cars year one, now you're going to lease 2 cars year two, now you got 4 cars on the lease.
So
Year
if
three,
it's-
you're going to have 6 cars on the lease.
So it's $6,500 a year per car without upfitting it, right? So that's potentially $65,000 per year in lease payments for 10 vehicles, excluding upfitting.
Once you have a fleet that is all the same, which we try to do, with Ford just kind of great sort of proposal this year, some of the items in the outfit can be reused on the same kind of car. But you have to have all the same kind of cars to do that. These cars are, the electronics in them nowadays are ridiculous. They really are. And that outfitting includes the graphics, the light bars, everything in it except the light. There's a lot to it.
That's what I was going to ask you about. Was like, because I used to work for Enterprise for 2 years. So like in the rental department, you learn how fleet works because of all this, and you learn how they sell their cars, and they're big used car salesmen, so they can't sell their cars until they hit a certain mileage point. So let's say on a police car, they want it to hit about 40,000 or 32,000 or something like that, and they pull them at those mileages. My only thought would be like, depending on what your upfitting is, you know what I mean? If it was a standard engineer's van or something, those are real easy. There's not much they do. You pull Dave Kane's coffee out of the thing and you're good. But the upfitting, so we're not getting any benefit by that. They're actually going to probably charge us a fee.
I would recommend that we not have them upfit the cars. Because they're
Right.
basically going to go to the same place we do, and they're just going to charge us interest for the money.
Oh, sure. No, what I'm saying is, let's say that we happen to hit the first lease really hard, right? And those first 2 cars hit their Enterprise's happy zone within the first year.
Mm-hmm.
Now, all of a sudden, we have to upfit 2 more cars because they pulled them. See what I'm saying?
If that was the case, they were the same cars, the total cost of upfitting wouldn't be the full.
Wouldn't be 22,000 a piece,
It
or
would be less
11.
than that, because we're going to take a lot of what's in that car out and put it in a new car.
Gotcha.
As long as they're the same kind of
And we're
car.
keeping that probably
The
in-house.
consoles are different, and the setups are different. When they change these cars, sometimes you can't take it from one car and put it in.
Sure. And what, do we do the upfitting at the city garage, or is that or is it like
Well, we haven't. The city garage doesn't really have the technical ability to do some of the upfitting.
okay.
They can do some of it. There's some of it that's beyond their training.
Sure, I don't see Mark stickering up police
There's
cars.
specialists. We take them to Niagara Falls with a special company that does this.
Okay.
Because it's very tricky. We just had a problem with one of the brand new cars we got last year. It took forever to troubleshoot. We had to take it back. It was just a unique anomaly in how the wiring was done. And you got to have somebody really specially trained in that. Because there's a tremendous amount of electronics in these things.
Gotcha.
Are you gonna have, do you have the choice of model like car you want?
Well, right now, there isn't a lot of choice out there. Ford, so we used to have Chevys, we had a lot of problems with Chevys. And Mark Donahue and I decided we were going to go with Fords, so we started buying all these Fords. We were very happy with the Fords. Ford decided they're not going to make those cars anymore. And then, so now the only thing that was really available to us was the Dodge Chargers, unless you wanted to go back to the giant Chevy Tahoes, which back in the day I think the council wasn't a big fan of. And to be honest, I'm not either. The small city, geographic-wise, it's hard to justify. So we went with the Dodge Chargers. We were very happy with them. I would continue buying Dodge Chargers. And that's really all Enterprise is going to have access to. Because Ford doesn't make a police car right now. And like I said, the Chevy Tahoes, which are very popular amongst a lot of big agencies, especially sheriff's departments, I'm not really interested in buying those. So yeah, you can buy what you want, and you can buy whatever you want to buy.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know.
Who is that?
That's a good question.
The
Troopers.
I don't know.
You see, in the troopers and the sheriffs, you're less likely to be beneficial because they're going to put significant more miles on than we are. They're going to do it half the time. Because they get in the car and they got to drive 200 miles to go drop off a form with some sergeants out there. It's ridiculous the amount of miles they put on a car. We don't put them on that fast. The slower you put the miles on, the longer the car stays in the fleet, and the more money you get when you turn it on.
I think there's an upside to this, Chief. I really do.
Well, like I said, I rely on a couple of you guys or somebody, math guys, and you can figure it out. That's my take on it from my meetings with them. And I wanted you guys to look at it, and I'm sure the mayor would be happy if council's interested in doing this. You maybe look at how this guy come back in again for you people.
Because then the reality, we're spending the money every year anyway, right? If we can save money and then have it built into the budget, then the penalty of problem is not a problem.
Right.
I think we've been through the presentations. I think the whole thing is, this is a way that, I think the term is used, dip our toes in the water. I think we use that for something. Paul, do you use that?
Chief.
We can try this lease out, and it's easy to budget for and see where we're going. And then if we like it, then we can move on to other vehicles.
Did Enterprise, have they given you an idea of criteria that they go by to pull it as far as miles and age, Jeff?
The only thing I remember from the meeting is that, like I said, they monitor the market.
Yeah.
They're huge, as you can well imagine, all across the United States.
Yeah.
And they know what vehicles are hot, which ones they need, where
Okay.
they need them at, and that's why they make their decisions. They're in the business to make money, but
Right.
every time they make money, we make some of our revenue back, or our extra money back.
Okay.
And they
So
need
it's it's like a variable rate on when they could pull those.
Yes, no, there isn't they're not gonna tell me that 28 months from now, I'm getting
Okay.
the car back.
And so it looks like,
They're gonna keep that car until the mileage gets to where they're worried about turning it over.
Mhm.
Or if they find that they need it quicker, because those cars are in high demand, and then they'll say, hey, we need that car.
Mhm.
I'm not sure how many months notice they give us. There's some things about this that I don't have the details. I didn't see a contract.
Mhm.
There's some fine line stuff that I can't answer.
Okay.
It's kind of give me a basic rundown.
They also have a minimum mileage that they can pull them at because they're a used car salesman.
Mhm.
So like they can't just turn around and give us a car for 3 miles and then turn around and sell it because it's not a used car. It's still technically a new car.
If they did that, that would be kind of unethical. I mean, we
Well,
buy the car, sell
sure.
a week later, and make a profit on it.
Sure, yeah, right. So that, no, there's different guidelines at the state and federal levels that they have to follow in order to sell used cars and be a reputable, preferred used car salesperson. So they have to wait till they're over, it depends on the vehicle and things like that.
So I'll just end with my 2 cents and where my gut tells me this. The vehicles we put a ton of miles on, fast, would be the most police cars make sense. If we get off into things that we don't put a ton of miles on, I feel like we could lose there, and that's just kind of maybe buy and own those cars and hit the high mileage ones with this program. But if they can pull them, I could see them, like if we got a car and say the code guy doesn't travel near as many miles or something, and his car is getting older, they're all of a sudden going to see the mileage be low and want to pull it, where we haven't even gotten our mileage out of it type scenario. Those kind of scenarios would make them the money instead of us getting the use out of the car.
See, I see the complete opposite. Because if they're taking a high mileage car like a police car, and we have to put $11,000 for a police car just to cut that number in half, right? We put $11,000 to upfit it, and then every year we've got to swap out a new one because we're hitting their mileage mark because we're really just cranking mileages on the police cars. Now all of a sudden we have to, we might save. It might only be $6,000 to just move it from one vehicle to another, but we're still having to pay a little bit extra on the police cars, which also are going to be the ones that are probably pulled first, where they're going to pull them on a timeline as well as a mileage thing. But like if a codes car is sitting for a little bit, like it doesn't cost us anything. It doesn't cost us that much to have City of Olean code enforcement stickered on the side of it. There's not really much upfitting. We're talking, a couple $100. So to swap out a car. So,
I think it sounds worth trying out, but you have to look. Sure. We should set it up to track those numbers right from the beginning and see if we save or not. Because just by if the police tend to use the cars first and they roll into other departments, they're getting 5 years out of a car. Each car 5 years, and then we're kind of dragging it out maybe to 10 through less used departments. But I don't get the feeling that Enterprise is going 5 years and more.
Well, like Fred talked about, I certainly can't give you a list right now. We were provided a list of significant amount of huge places that are using the service. Like if you just take bodies, for example, to your point, like in bond security, they're just driving around campus, they're not putting a lot of miles on. And there's a lot of places, high speed places that put tons of miles on, and other places that aren't. And everybody that Fed talked to at 9 times,
I think
these are places that if they're doing it, it kind of makes you think there must be something to it. These people.
Yeah. I'm all for.
County was on that list too. I think Allegheny County was doing some leasing too. So.
I'm all for trying it out. I just think we should split it off in a way that lets us see the numbers.
You shouldn't jump in all at once. Let's do a little bit at once and see how it goes.
Yeah.
I agree with you, Jason. I think there is something to be said about having a vehicle for, that maybe we have bought and paid for, and we keep it for 15 years for, I don't know, whatever.
Chris, to wear it and drive
Yes.
here to the
Rec center?
Yes, right. But I think this is a good place to start as the police cars. I think you're right.
Yeah, and be able to quantify if you save or not. If you get into the fire department for certain cars, so that you can tell, do we end up losing out on fire department cars and not, where it makes sense, hey, let's really do this with the police, but hey, if we get down the road 10 years and we could save $10,000 a year by not doing the fire department ones or something, that way we can at least see it in the numbers.
Should we?
So what do you need from us?
I guess we can put. I've been hesitant about calling Enterprise because I've called them so much and there've been so many presentations to us. So I guess
bring you free lunch at least every time they present you?
No,
Only the first time.
It comes early in the morning, so I guess just I will reach back out to them and get some firm figures and let everybody know what's going on and I'm not asking for a firm commitment. I'm asking for everybody to. I'll get the new numbers and to just we may need some funding to get this project started, but so. I just want to get your feel on it, and I think from what I'm seeing, everybody's interested in possibly starting out with two vehicles and then go from there.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Tiffany transfers, water fund. Bob, you need to talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about it next week, but
Yes, let's do that.
proposing PL for next week, I can address it in the committee as well.
All right.
It's two water transfer capital projects.
Before that, give it to me all. I will, so we do need to do executive session.
Yeah.
So I will make a motion to go into executive session. Do I have a second?
Second.
By Alderman Witt, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And I will make a motion to adjourn committee of the whole. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Witt, all in favor?
Aye.
Done.